The warranty on your new home expires in 12 months. The mortgage expires in 30 years. If you think that gap is an accident, you need to see what is happening inside the walls of new construction homes in subdivisions across America before the drywall goes up. Because what the home building industry calls builder grade is not a quality certification. It is not an industry standard. It is a legal threshold, the minimum quality required to transfer a deed and end a builder's liability. But to understand how we got here, you have to understand what we lost. Before 1980, most homes in America were built by local contractors who lived in the communities they served. These builders constructed fewer than 25 houses per year. They staked their livelihood on repeat business and word of mouth in towns where everybody knew everybody. If your foundation cracked, you knew the name of the man who poured it, and he knew you would tell every neighbor on the street. They hired tradespeople who had completed formal 4-year apprenticeships under the system established by the Fitzgerald Act of 1937. 8,000 hours of supervised work came before a plumber could take a journeyman exam, with at least 2 additional years required for a master license. Electrician apprenticeships ran a minimum of 5 years. Carpenter apprenticeships required 4 years of indentured training under a licensed contractor. Every person building the bones of your house had formal training, supervised hours, and passed qualifying examinations. The lumber came from old-growth forests, with tight growth rings that made it structurally stronger and far more resistant to rot than the plantation lumber harvested from 12 to 20-year-old trees that goes into new homes today. A real 2x4 actually measured 2 inches by 4 inches. Today's nominal 2x4 measures just 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Plaster walls over wooden lath provided superior fire resistance and soundproofing instead of half-inch drywall. Copper plumbing and copper wiring, both rated by NAHB to last a lifetime. Brick exteriors rated to last over 100 years. Slate and clay tile roofing systems rated for 50 years or more. Between 1945 and 1965, America built 25 to 30 million single-family homes under this model. Millions of them are still standing and structurally sound 6 decades later. In 1994, the 10 largest home builders in America held just 10% of the national market. The rest belonged to 14,000 independent regional contractors whose names were on their trucks and whose reputations were their entire business model. Then came the consolidation. By 2024, 4 publicly traded corporations, D.R. Horton, Lennar, Pulte Group, and NVR, were building 1 in 3 new American homes. The top 10 builders captured a record 44.7% of all new single-family home closings. In 11 metro areas, the top 10 builders controlled over 90% of the market. Cincinnati topped the list at 97.8%. The 2008 financial crisis accelerated this concentration dramatically. The number of residential construction firms fell from 98,000 in 2007 to under 49,000 by 2012. A 50% wipeout. 600,000 construction workers permanently left the industry. The builders who survived were the ones with Wall Street balance sheets, not the ones with the best craftsmanship. A Johns Hopkins University study found that this increased concentration led to less production, greater price volatility, and a decrease in the annual value of new housing by $106 billion. D.R. Horton's own numbers tell the story. In 2023, they earned over 3 times the profit they made in 2005, despite delivering about half as many houses. These companies are not builders in any traditional sense. Their Securities and Exchange Commission filings state that substantially all construction is performed by subcontractors selected through competitive bidding. They are financial operations that happen to produce houses, and the houses they produce are engineered around a very specific timeline. The industry standard, new home warranty, follows what the industry calls a 1, 2, 10 structure, and understanding what each tier actually covers is where the business model becomes visible. Year 1 covers workmanship and materials. That includes cabinets, countertops, flooring, drywall, paint, siding, and roof covering. This is the broadest tier, and it expires at 12 months. Years 1 through 2 cover systems distribution, the wiring, piping, and ductwork for electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. This only covers the delivery network, not the equipment itself. Your air conditioning compressor, your water heater, your furnace are covered only by manufacturer warranties, typically 5 to 10 years for parts, but labor coverage expires at 1 to 2 years. So when your HVAC compressor fails in the 3rd year, you pay full labor costs out of pocket. Years 1 through 10 cover structural components, but only load-bearing elements like foundation walls, floor and roof framing, beams, and columns. The damage has to make your home unsafe, unsanitary, or otherwise unlivable. A cracked foundation that has not yet compromised load-bearing function may not qualify. The federal law that is supposed to protect consumers who purchase products, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, explicitly excludes homes sold as real estate. Beams, wallboard, wiring, plumbing, windows, roofing, all excluded. The federal warranty law that guards virtually every consumer purchase you make offers essentially zero protection for the single largest purchase of your life. And the warranty companies know exactly what they are selling. The largest provider, 210 Home Buyers Warranty, openly markets its product to builders as a tool to disclaim all implied warranties. Now look at the materials going into these homes. Major plumbing fixture manufacturers produce 2 versions of the same product. One version is for plumbing supply houses, built with brass and stainless steel internal components. The other is for volume builders, built with plastic internals and sold under the same brand name with a model number that differs by a single digit. Kohler sells the Fort Widespread faucet to plumbing professionals with metal internal parts. The version sold through big box retail channels uses plastic internals. 1-digit difference in the model number, a significant difference in what happens inside that faucet by year 3. Builder-grade vinyl windows generally last 5 to 10 years before thermal seal failure and hardware failure become common. Premium window systems like Cardinal Glass's XL Edge seal technology show 0.2% failure over 20 years. Builder-grade windows with vintage organic seals show 8.4% failure. That is 42 times higher chance of seal failure. 3-tab asphalt shingles, the standard builder-grade roofing choice, last 7 to 10 years under harsh weather with wind ratings of just 60 miles per hour. Architectural shingles last 25 to 30 years, handle winds up to 130 miles per hour, and cost only 20 to 40% more. The builder saves a few $100s per roof, and you replace yours a decade early. Architectural shingles perform and last. The sheathing under those shingles is where the real risk hides. Oriented strand board, known as OSB, has replaced plywood in most new construction because it costs 20 to 30% less. But OSB absorbs water slowly and dries far more slowly than plywood. When it swells from moisture, the swelling is permanent. Research shows that OSB strength loss from moisture cycling stabilizes at approximately 40% of the original dry value. That means OSB is permanently weakened to 60% of its design capacity. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe. I cover how modern products are engineered to fail every single week. Now, the water intrusion story is where the warranty timeline and the material choices converge into something that looks less like an oversight and more like a business model. Water management in a new home depends on the precise coordination of multiple subcontractors. House wrap installers, window installers, siding crews, and roofers all have to integrate their work with each other. Quality Built, a national inspection firm, reported that 70% of nearly 13,000 flashing installations they inspected contained documented anomalies. 75% of lath installations were improper. Building Science Corporation, the leading research firm in residential moisture management, documented that water-resistive barriers can lose their hydrophobic properties entirely when installed over wet framing. Once the barrier fails, water reaches the oriented strand board sheathing behind it, and the degradation clock starts. In Woodbury, Minnesota, the building department issued wall repair permits for 344 out of 670 stucco-clad homes built in the 1990s. That is a 51% failure rate across an entire community. Mold remediation in the second year, when the damage is localized, typically costs $1,500 to $6,500. In the fifth year, with deeper wall cavity penetration and structural member involvement, that number jumps to $10,000 to $30,000. By the 10th year, with structural degradation of the sheathing and widespread contamination, you are looking at $50,000 to $100,000. The broadest warranty tier expired at the 12th month. The damage becomes visible in the third year. You do the math. The HVAC situation follows the same pattern. The North Carolina Alternative Energy Corporation found that approximately 90% of residential HVAC systems are installed incorrectly when compared to manufacturer specifications and code requirements. A Department of Energy study confirmed this through field testing of 100 residential systems and found that only 23% were properly charged and only 13% showed correct evaporator airflow. Volume builders use rule of thumb sizing, 1 ton of cooling per 500 square feet, instead of performing a manual J-load calculation that accounts for insulation levels, window types, building envelope tightness, duct location, and climate zone. The result is systems that are undersized for the actual cooling and heating load of the home. An undersized compressor runs at maximum output continuously, unable to reach the thermostat set point. When discharge line temperature exceeds 250 degrees Fahrenheit, oil carbonization begins on the discharge valve. Emerson Electric found that approximately 80% of compressor failures result from inadequate maintenance, misdiagnosed problems, or unaddressed system issues, not manufacturing defects. The compressor is not the problem. The installation is the problem. But the installation warranty expired at 12 months. The ductwork compounds the failure. Engineers at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory found that ducts routed through unconditioned attics waste approximately 20% of furnace or air conditioner output. In Phoenix, Houston, and Las Vegas, average distribution system efficiency measured just 72%, meaning 28% of the cooling output was lost before it reached the living space. Attic temperatures reach 130 to 150 degrees in summer, degrading flex duct tape joints, insulation jackets, and inner liners over 5 to 10 years. When the original HVAC was undersized and the ductwork needs redesign, you are facing a total replacement cost of $15,000 to $25,000 or more. The foundation tells a similar story. In Texas, the Blackland Prairie Belt, running from the Red River to San Antonio, covers 12 million acres of some of the most expansive clay soil in the country. These clay molecules increase volume up to 10% when saturated, generating pressures measured as high as 5,500 pounds per square foot. Volume builders routinely build on these soils using post-tension slab foundations because they are cheaper and faster to install, using 20 to 30% less concrete and reinforcement than conventional slabs. Foundation repair costs average $5,000 to $8,000 nationally, but piering systems run $8,000 to $30,000, and full foundation replacement can reach $100,000. A foundation expert with over 30 years of experience at Ramjack stated plainly that a brand new home is just as likely to move as a 100-year-old one, and that from his personal experience, new homes can suffer some of the worst damage. The framing shortcuts compound everything. Weyerhaeuser, the largest manufacturer of engineered wood products, issues an explicit warning that their products are intended for dry-use service applications only, and that moisture exposure during construction can create significant product and safety issues. Independent inspectors routinely document missing blocking for shear walls, inadequate headers over openings, improper bearing point support, and species substitution where different lumber with lower strength capacities is used without engineering review. One Texas inspector found 140 locations requiring nail plates in a single-story house where wires had been drilled too close to stud edges. And if you try to pursue a claim against the builder, you will discover the binding arbitration clause buried in your purchase contract. Public Citizen's investigation documented that mandatory binding arbitration had become ubiquitous in the new home industry. Every one of the nation's 10 largest builders requires it. The largest warranty provider, 210 Home Buyers Warranty, requires binding arbitration with every home buyer. The National Association of Home Builders actively promotes binding arbitration to all its members. The outcomes are structurally skewed against homeowners. In one documented case from Houston, a homeowner named Jordan Fogel proved fraud against her builder and was awarded just $26,000, less than 8% of her home purchase price, for a house she had to abandon. An Army veteran named Dale Bynusa paid $500 in arbitration fees for a 38-minute meeting where the arbitrator had not reviewed the case file. A homeowner named Michael Pilara was ordered to pay his builder nearly $57,000 plus $32,000 in attorney fees, despite the arbitrator finding the builder had breached its contract. Arbitration proceedings are private. The filings and evidence never become public record. That is a feature, not a bug. It means the patterns of failure across entire developments, entire states, entire builder portfolios stay invisible. D.R. Horton settled with residents of the Rose Hill subdivision in South Carolina for $16.1 million, averaging over $75,000 per home, for water intrusion, roofing, joist, and siding defects. PulteGroup's Florida Attorney General settlement covered more than 23,000 homes for $78.7 million. KB Home spent more than $71 million fixing water intrusion issues in Florida after investigators found work orders showing one coat of stucco where codes required 2 or 3. Lennar set aside $39.8 million after discovering defective Chinese-manufactured drywall in 400 Florida homes. These are not isolated incidents. These are the ones that made it past the arbitration wall. There is exactly one moment in the construction process where you can see everything before it disappears behind drywall for the next 30 years. A pre-drywall inspection costs approximately $300. It takes 2 to 4 hours. It happens after framing, rough plumbing, rough electrical, and HVAC installation are complete, but before insulation and drywall cover it all. The return on investment is staggering. A minor plumbing defect costs about $200 to fix at the pre-drywall stage. The same defect after drywall installation costs $5,000 or more. A 25-to-1 cost multiplier. Structural repairs cost the builder nothing when caught before walls go up, but can exceed $25,000 after completion. Many volume builders actively discourage or refuse these inspections. No state universally mandates them for new construction. Municipal code inspectors are overworked, carry zero liability for missed defects, and typically spend about 45 minutes on a review that an independent inspector would spend 4 hours conducting. If you are buying a new construction home, demand a pre-drywall inspection in writing as a condition of purchase. Hire an independent inspector, not the builder's preferred vendor, and schedule it after framing, rough plumbing, rough electrical, and HVAC installation are complete. Ask for the manual J-load calculation for your specific home, not the development's template calculation, because every house has different orientation, window placement, and duct runs. Request the exact model numbers of every plumbing fixture, window, and HVAC component. Then look up those model numbers independently to see whether you are getting the professional grade version or the builder grade equivalent with different internal components. Read every page of the purchase contract before signing. Look for the mandatory binding arbitration clause, the warranty limitation language, and any provision that waives your right to the implied warranty of habitability. Ask the builder directly how many homes they build per year, how long they have worked with their current subcontractors, and whether they hold any third-party certifications like Energy Star or NGBS Green. Energy Star certification specifically requires a pre-drywall inspection for every certified home, And if the builder resists any of these questions, that resistance is the answer. The homes built in the 1950s and 1960s, with their old-growth lumber, copper plumbing, brick exteriors, and plaster walls, are still standing all over this country. They were built by people whose names were on their trucks, who lived in the communities they served, who hired tradespeople with years of supervised training. The homes being built today by publicly traded corporations reporting to Wall Street every quarter are engineered to a different standard entirely, not the standard of how long will this last, the standard of what is the minimum quality required to transfer a deed and end our liability. The warranty expires at 12 months. The mortgage expires at 30 years. That gap is not an oversight, it is the product. If you want to see how this same strategy plays out in another industry you trust, that video is on screen now. Subscribe, because every week we break down exactly how the things you buy are designed to fail.